All right, with former Bills great Eric Wood now doing the color on the radio for the Bills games. Great to see you, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Always a pleasure being with you, Bull.
Appreciate it, man. So let's talk a little bit about the Bills and the Giants. First of all, how fun was it for you to catch back up with Tyrod pregame and maybe throughout the weekend?
Man, I actually didn't even get to talk to him till after the game, and I
Okay.
just shot him a text saying, "Hey, I'm proud of you." Generally, I would. The way the roundtable sits for those primetime games, when I'm on WGR, it made it difficult for me to catch up with him pregame. I don't love to kind of bug guys during the week. Not that Tyrod would think I was bugging him, reaching out. Just I don't know. I always try and just wait till either I see him at the game or after the fact. But I thought Tyrod played well in the game. He managed the game well. They were undermanned in the game, especially up front on the offensive line. Brian Daboll did a great job of maneuvering him outside the pocket at times. A lot of quick game, a lot of design runs for Saquon, which kept the Bills defense honest. Now, look, they only scored 9 points in the game. They were in a position to win it at the end. And look, they could have made the Giants offense look a lot worse had early in the game. You don't have that fumble, a couple trips, drops. Like if they don't have all that early on, they put a lot of pressure on this Giants offense with a 2-score lead. It's a totally different game. Instead, Tyrod got to manage the game, and he did well doing it.
How about Justin Pugh? Now, you didn't see this because you were on air, but Justin Pugh, when he was describing what college he came from, he literally said off the couch, which is exactly where he came from. And honestly, for a guy that hadn't played in a bit, played pretty darn good.
Yeah, the thing that hurt him the most was the silent count. And so there was times where guys were getting an incredible jump on him. AJ Epinesa sack, he just runs right around him because he doesn't get off on the ball in time. And then he had 2 false starts trying to time up the count so he didn't just get smoked around the edge. But beyond that, he's a guy with experience. He's a former fairly high draft pick and a guy that knows what he's doing, originally drafted by the Giants, but not this scheme. So from my understanding, the Giants spent 2 weeks on the West Coast or out west when they were playing back-to-back games out there. They were practicing in Arizona, which is where Justin is selling real estate and podcasting as of a few weeks ago. They caught back up with him. He was pretty light. So he put on weight to even get back up to 290 pounds. But that just shows you the state of the offensive line they're in.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how that played out. Obviously, the big talking point the last 2 weeks has been the Bills' slow starts, and you kind of pointed toward what happened and why. The fumble, the trips on what looked to be open receiver routes. Obviously, that played a lot into it. But I don't think you can blame the entire slow start on let's just say those 3 plays in particular. What do you think, again, over the last 2 weeks, their slow start could be attributed to?
It sounds simple and it sounds cliche, but it's a lack of execution. And, let's fast forward. Let's rewind back to the Jaguars games. They go 3-and-out their first 2 possessions of the game, and they don't score till their final possession right before the half. Well, in those 4 drives where they punted, you can point towards drops, ineffective run game, but this is the Bills are going to be built as a passing team. They are. And so everyone out there saying, hey, they need to pound the rock with James Cook more. Look how many yards he gets. When James Cook really thrives? When they have a 2-score lead in the second half and they can really impose their will. He has not had great stats in the first quarter. He gets great stats when the Bills are playing with the lead and they're really leaning on a team late in the game. They've worn down the defense at that point. This is a passing team. Passing teams cannot have drops early in the game. They can't have penalties backing them up, and you can't have fumbles. You can't have receivers tripping when you script guys open. You go into a game and you only have, and look, you have a few plays where you're like, hey, this is going to be a good one. Well, you have back-to-back series where guys get tripped up when they're open for big gains. That makes a huge difference in the game. And so to me, it comes down to little things. And I think part of it is the Bills as an offense are adjusting to life without Josh Allen running. He's not even scrambling. He's not running sneaks at this point. And you know what? In week 6, I'm great with it. I'm great with learning how to play without Josh getting hit. I mean, last game against the Giants, he got hit 1 time in the game. I mean, now he injured his shoulder on the play, but I am great with them still winning games, figuring this all out at this point of the season. Yes, we hate the slow starts, but if you look at the Bills' offensive rankings, they are still ranked very high across the board. And I said something on Twitter earlier, and I'm sure people will get offended, but if you just follow the Bills very closely and watch highlights from other teams, you're going to have a skewed misconception. You're going to have a misconception of what this Bills offense really is. And through 6 weeks, they're one of the best in the league.
Hey, so another talking point was that I've been hearing throughout this week is the fact that Diggs got 16 targets, and the Bills are in desperate need of a third guy, and whoever that is, either if it's somebody on the roster or they need to go out and get somebody. What do you make of all of that?
I think there's truth to it. Now, when a lot of teams feed a receiver like Diggs, people down in Miami aren't saying, let's throw the ball to Tyreek less, and he's getting just as many targets as Diggs is. And so, yes, at times when the Bills offense isn't executing and Diggs has that many targets, you could say, hey, we need to find other people to get the ball to. And I believe they do. Now, does going out and get someone, does that hurt Kincaid's progression in this offense? I know he missed the last game with the concussion, but that's what you brought him in to be, is that kind of second or third option behind Diggs, and then assuming that he's going to be getting less targets than Gabe Davis. I like the play to Hardy. I love the play in Jacksonville where you get him down the field. It takes time in game to adjust fully to new receivers, but I would say that I would like to see more production from Hardy or Sherfield moving forward. But I also want to see production from Kincaid pick up as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I loved the Hardy play. I mean, that was basically the Sky Moore touchdown play from the Super Bowl, right? And just doing what the guys that have these speed guys, whether it's Miami or San Francisco, that's what they do. They use their speed to their advantage. And I think finally Ken Dorsey late in the game took advantage of that in that situation. Let's talk a little bit about the defense now. Flip it over. What are you making of Vaughn's return? 47-ish, I think, snaps over the first 2 games. I know they'll say, or people will say, well, he's in the game, so automatically he has effect, even though if he doesn't have stats. Agree or disagree?
Both. I agree with that because he is going to catch attention wherever he's at on the field. I mean, he is who he is. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league, one of the best of all time. He's going to be a Hall of Famer when his career ends. I think he is still working back from that ACL, which is natural. He tore it less than a year ago. I know when I did mine, and we played different positions, but when I did mine, and I was a lot heavier than him, but it took me about 18 months to feel really good, to where I could play and not even think about it, or not have to warm up extra, or not go into the training room immediately after practice or the game. It just takes time, and you're seeing that. Now, he's doing his classic finesse moves around the edge. When he gets back to moving inside, when he ignites some power as well, I think you'll see his production pick up. He's also a guy that sets things up as the game goes on. And when you only play 20 snaps against Jacksonville and you're playing, kind of this weird quick game offense with the Giants, it's hard for him to set up his inside move, the spin move, the ghost move that he calls it. That stuff gets set up throughout the game, and he hasn't really had the time to do that yet.
I got to say, him having limited reps has really given the opportunity for exposure to Russo and Epinesa, who have been fantastic.
And Floyd
this season. And Floyd's been a great pickup for the Bills. I agree. Let's shift to the young linebackers. I mean, Bernard, 3 tackles for loss. I thought Dorian Williams, put into a tough spot, played great. And I think the more reps, we talked about it last week on my show, that the more reps he gets, the better he'll get. What do you make of the 2 young linebackers and how they've done so far?
Yeah, I'll start with Williams, and I'm with you. I think that with his athleticism and the way he plays, he has a much higher upside than Dotson. And so getting him experience early in the season where he's at right now, especially with Milano out potentially for the year, get him as many reps as you can so that when it comes to the postseason, we always said towards the end of the season, you're not a rookie anymore. So he's no longer making those rookie mistakes. Got put in a very tough situation in Jacksonville. It's tough getting your first start on Sunday Night Football. It's extremely tough when you're running the show team all week because you have a stud in Matt Milano ahead of you, and you're running the show team. You're pretending like you're a Jacksonville linebacker during the week, and then all of a sudden you're playing, 11 snaps into the game. And so that was a situation where that was really difficult. I thought he played better in his second action, and he's a guy that I think will continue to get better and better. Bernard has impressed me since week 1. And I love his playmaking ability and I love his athleticism. Is there going to be times he gets swallowed up by blockers because he's not a huge linebacker? Yes. But in today's NFL, you got to play with guys like Bernard. He's carrying Miami skill position players down the field. The Micah Hyde interception happens because he's running step for step with Waddle, whoever was running up. Robbie Chosen was running up the seam, and Bernard's running step for step with him, which causes two to float the ball, and then Micah Hyde gets an interception. He's got that ability. I also love the way he attacks downhill and makes plays in the backfield. That shows off his skill and his quickness, but also his preparation in his film study, because he's recognizing those plays extremely fast.
Let's fast forward to Foxborough and the Patriots, who are a tire fire, a dumpster fire, a lobster fire. I mean, fill in the blank fire. That's kind of what this team is at this point. And of course, Bills fans are okay with that for sure. But let's talk about then. Nobody gave the Giants a chance to keep that game close. I know you did. You weren't surprised that game was closer than the odds makers thought it would be. But the Patriots also, like the Giants, have really significant injuries along both lines of scrimmage, and obviously really horrible quarterback play. So what do you make of this game coming up in New England this weekend?
Yeah, look, most games in the NFL are decided about one score or less. I think the Bills will win again, but, the fans that expect – and I say fans, that's not an indictment on the fans. I'm a fan of the Bills as well. But those out there that expect the Bills to just blow out every team that they're favored to beat, it just doesn't happen very often in the NFL. We saw a streak, for 3 straight weeks this season. And every time they do something like that, we're talking about historical numbers and point differential over a 3-game stretch. That doesn't happen week in and week out in the NFL. I expect it to be a close game. You're going to a divisional opponent's house that's familiar with you. And even if they stink, it's still the National Football League. It's going to be interesting to see what they do at quarterback. If they start working Malik Cunningham in there more, does it look more like a Wildcat offense than necessarily a Bill O'Brien traditional offense over there? That's yet to be seen. I don't know if they have the offensive talent to, keep up with this Bills offense, especially if they get back to executing early in games.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, let people know where people can see everything you're doing, from your podcast, obviously on GR with the Bills games and more. Where can we find Eric Wood?
Yeah, I have my Centered on Buffalo podcast, do a game preview each week with someone generally from the opposing team's media department, whether that's, their color analyst, a former player, whoever that may be. Have my book out still, What's Next with Eric Wood podcast. What's Next with Eric Wood. Sorry, book is Tackle What's Next, podcast What's Next with Eric Wood. So a little bit of everything going on, but enjoying the ride and enjoying this Bill season.
Appreciate you as always, man. One of the busiest men in media these days. He's doing everything. Eric Wood, thanks for being with us, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, bro. Anytime.